Okay, welcome back. We are ACI Course 12, Class 8 on April 20th, 2026. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom, and see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you, smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them, that beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then when you hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it will be when we can also help in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on to stop their distress forever. Deep down, we know this is possible. Learning about emptiness and karma, we glimpse how it's possible. And so I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. And with that intention strong, we turn our minds back to our precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet. Become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please Please, please teach me that. Show me that. Help me become that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the pure world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands, and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with the blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandala Kam Nirlyatayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings totally awaken for the benefit of every single other. So last class we were talking about that practice called the 4 close recollections, where the close recollection means to explore and establish that the self-existent thing we believe is there is not there, so that we can closely recollect, closely hold the object of our investigation in the way that it truly exists. And that we talked about our body and our feelings and went through those investigations, but didn't do mind or sure things. And so there is a question that you couldn't answer on your homework 7 about the 7-part analysis of the cart. And in Master Shantideva's actual text, he doesn't go into this detail. He's just talking about the not self-existent nature of all of these things. And Gyaltsab Je's commentary is helping us to understand better how to apply those practices, those investigations. And to investigate the mind, the Gyaltsab Je uses this analysis called the 7-step analysis of the wooden horse, technically is the name of it. Shingta. I'll show you in a minute. And then the process that is used to examine the true nature of a cart, right? A thing pulled by a horse so that you can carry stuff. The idea is that's the analogy for how we investigate the true nature of our mind. And in doing so, it also gives us the tool for investigating the true nature of things, right? So material objects is what they mean by things usually, but that's, of course, not limited to that. So Geshe-la didn't do this 7-step analysis of the cart in the previous class because he had already gone overtime. So it comes in class 8, but it's from your homework 7, and then class 8 carries on. So I'm doing the same thing. So in order to investigate the true nature of our mind, we need to establish first what we think our mind is, and secondly, what we think it's made up of, right? So we did that with the other investigations as well. So our mind is that which is clear and aware. So our consciousness, that, like, it's the one thing we actually know is that we are aware. And it's that awareness that we're trying to investigate. But when we just say, okay, my aware right now, my state of aware right now, is that my mind? Or is that what my mind is doing? Is that what my mind has, the state of awareness? And, it's like, do we think our mind is a thing that does all this other stuff? And the way it does all that other stuff is through this thing called awareness. Or do we relate to our mind as awareness itself? I don't know. Even now, after I've spent lots of time trying to figure out what is this thing, mind, I'm still kind of confused. What is it? And in this tradition that's so precise about so many things, all these different words for all these different aspects, all we have is sem for a suffering mind, a mind of a suffering being, sem. That which is clear and aware. So then what are the parts of the mind? Because we want to know what that mind as a whole is made up of. And we can look at it as a static thing. If we think our mind is, right, a thing that is there, then its parts are the functions, those 46 or 52 mental functions that are happening one by one. Those would be the parts of the mind. If we think of the mind as this stream, or the analogy they use is a rosary, the rosary is made up of 108 different beads, and you go from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and you just keep going around. Although technically you go around and you turn and go back. But the idea is, if we consider the mind not a static thing, but this flowing thing, then the parts of the mind are these moments of awareness of the flow, that makes the flow. And then if we're still thinking there's a mind that has its nature, and it's made up of these instances of mind that have their own nature, we should be able to find an instant of that mind that has its own nature, that therefore gets put together with another instant that has its own identity, and you put all those together, and that's what gives you the stream of mind. And if these instances of awareness don't have their own natures, well, then how do you distinguish them? And how can they be parts of a mind? How can things that are indistinguishable suddenly make something distinguishable? It would be impossible. And then we understand that, well, these moments of a mind, if it's something that gets strung together, then there has to be this moment has to have a beginning, a middle, or an end, because then there's the next one. And it'll have a beginning, a middle, and the end, and then there's the next one. And it isn't so much whether they touch, it's that if a given moment of mind has a beginning, a middle, and an end, then it's depending on something. Where am I in that moment of mind? At the beginning, at the middle, or at the end? And by the time we figure it out or think we've figured it out, we're in a whole different moment of mind that we're trying to figure out where am I in it. So that's apparently this analysis of the mind and what we believe are its building blocks. And that should be enough for us to go, wow, if my mind is not made of discrete, individually known instances of time, then how can my mind be an individually known thing in an instant of time? My mind would have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. But wait a minute, my mind has no end. But if I'm thinking of the mind as either a static thing or this infinitely changing thing, yeah, it has no end, but you can't ever find exactly where it is. And then it's like, I can't figure that out. So they say, here's a way to do it. We use this analogy, the 7-step analogy of the cart. And in the 7-step analogy of the cart represents the mind. And the way we're going to analyze the relationship of the cart to its parts is then how we analyze the relationship of our mind to its parts. So Geshe-la gives us the 7-step analysis of the cart and says, now on your own time, go and apply each one of those steps to my mind and its parts and see how it goes. He doesn't go through that with us. So I'll just remind us each step about the mind and its parts. And then you sit down over a cup of tea or together, right, in your group and hash out, how does this help me understand my mind better? Some days it's obvious for me. Other days it's like, what? So have fun with that. So let me get my screen share. Sorry. Start over. Can't make you bigger. Oh, there, that's why. And there. What am I missing? Okay. All right. Shingta Chepa Dun. Dun is 7. Chepa means to analyze. Shingta means a wooden horse. Wooden horse means the cart, not a statue, but the thing that the oxen pull so that you can carry a lot of stuff. It's got wheels. That's the main thing. Geshe-la says, let's call it a car. The 7-step analysis of a car, because we relate to cars. So if you have a car and you think of it right now, it's parked somewhere, right? And in our mind's eye, we can think of where it is and what it looks like. And we go, oh, my car or, whoever's car is there parked in that place. And then if we were to ask, somebody on the street, what's the relation? What's that car? How do you define that car, right? How do you recognize that as a car? And they say, well, you just look at the thing. It's got the right shape. It's got these right features. And so altogether, it's a car. And then, in our tradition, we want to get more specific. How is it that we're thinking about this thing called car and these things called parts? And what's the relationship between those two? And the idea is that we're trying to find the car that we think is there, the one that's real, right? The one that is the thing we get into and drive to the grocery store, or would be the thing that drives into us and breaks us because it's bigger. Like we're thinking there is a thing called a car. And if there is a thing called a car that's there independently in some way, independent of us thinking of it, we should be able to find that something about it that's could be there independent of us knowing it or us thinking about it. So now, don't think about your car. Whoops. Think about a grocery store. No, think about, a beautiful rainbow. When you're not thinking about your car, is your car still there in the parking space? So, your own mind. I'm not thinking about my car, but my car's still there. Come on, that's silly. Just not thinking about it doesn't make it disappear. Just thinking about it doesn't make it appear. I have to see it for it to appear. But then does that mean it wasn't there until I saw it? And we don't really have a way to confirm, right? I mean, I believe the car is out there because nothing happened that would have taken it away. But right, that right there shows that we are believing that there's something called car that's in it, from it, even as we say, oh, I know it's not self-existent, it depends on all its parts, right? It depends on us having bought it, it depends on all kinds of things, and it still exists in some way in it, from it. So we have a car, a thing called a car, and we have these parts of a car. And we're investigating the relationship between the car and its parts. And again, the analogy is my mind, the car, and the parts of my mind, what's the relationship? So now there's an interesting thing about relationships. In order for two things to have a relationship, there has to be two existing things. They have to be two separate existing things. So Ronnie and David's wife can't have a relationship because they're the same thing. So a car and its parts, already we're recognizing for them to have a relationship that we believe they have. We're already believing that they're two separate existing things. And, we can jump to the chase and go, well, I know they're not separate existing things because you have to have both. But even as we say that, there's a part of us that believes that car is out there in our carport. And just to think that reinforces the belief that there's something out there called a car that has its own identity in some way and all of its own parts. So here's this 7 steps for investigating the different ways that we believe a whole thing and its parts have relationships in order to show ourselves that in fact, none of those are possible. But if there's only 7 different ways that it is possible to have a relationship between a thing and its parts, and we show that none of those 7 ways actually explain our experience, well, then what the heck is going on? Right? So the analysis doesn't actually show us what's going on. It shows us what's not going on. And then we rest in the, so how does it actually work? Fortunately, we know the punchline, but don't jump there too fast. Okay? So here's the 7 steps. Dong means and. So deni, dong sheni, dong den, dong dempe chok, dong dempe cheek, dong dupa tsam, and you. Those are the 7. So we're looking. Deni means come. It means those themselves. So what it means is when we're looking for the relationship between the car and its parts, is the car equal to its parts? And what they mean by that is each part of the car the car? Is the car its windshield? Is the car its steering wheel? Is the car its 4 tires? It's like, no, that's silly. The car has all those things, but it isn't all those things. If it were, you'd have as many cars as there were parts to the car, and we don't, we just have one car. So scratch the object being its parts or its parts being the object. Did we really think that? I don't think so. Shenidong means something other. Is the car something other than the parts? Like, what does our mind say? Yes, of course, the car is something other than the parts. But is it something other, totally unrelated to the parts? Is it a thing called car that's hanging out over there that once all these parts are there, that thing called car lands on? Or is there some carness that's not material yet, that's hanging out somewhere, that when it has all the necessary material pieces, that carness can be said to be there? Is there a car completely separate from its parts? And it's like, no, right? Even if we could say there was, we'd say it's just the idea of a car. You can have an idea of a car and none of its material parts are there. But even that idea of the car, if we pin that down, we'd have to say, well, that idea of the car actually has different parts of it too. So, I can't really say there could even be an idea of a car hanging out independent of parts. It could hang out independent of the material parts of the material car. But then the idea car wouldn't be hanging out somewhere separate from the parts of the idea car, would they? So is the car existing completely independent of its parts? No. So again, we're really talking about the mind. Is the mind the same thing as its parts? No. Is the mind a thing that's completely separate from its parts? No. All right, scratch out number 2. Dendong. Den means basis, but here it means dependent. is the car dependent upon its parts? And like my mind wants to say yes, the car is dependent upon the parts. You have to have all the parts there in order to have the car. But wait a minute. You could have all the parts laid out on the garage floor. All the parts would be there. Is the car there? Not yet. But once you put all those parts together, then the car can depend upon those parts. Well, no, then it's depending on all the parts being put together, not all the parts. Because all the parts being put together isn't another part. It's something else. So it wouldn't actually be a part of the car that puts them all together that makes it such that the car can now depend upon the parts. But that's not how the argument goes. The argument says, for something to depend upon another thing, what they mean is literally for the pen to sit on the palm of my hand. It means the pen is depending upon the palm of my hand. It's being supported by. So does the pen to be here depend upon my hand? Yes, because it's sitting there. If my hand goes away, the pen falls because of gravity, right? If there's nothing there to support the pen, now it's my thumb and finger that's supporting the pen. In that way, does the car depend upon its parts like the pen depends upon a table? Is there a car sitting on or within those parts? Whereas if you took the parts away, like if you take the table away, the car disappears from view because there's nothing to hold it up. It's like, no, that's silly, right? Because it would imply here's the parts, like here's the table, and here's the car, like here's the pen. And once the parts are all there assembled, the car can come and sit upon it. We don't think that. But when I first said, does the car depend upon its parts? We nodded yes, because we do believe a car depends upon its parts. Like we can't have a car without parts. But is the car depending on the parts? Are the parts the thing the car that's there really depends upon, right? When we end up right at the end of this where we know the punchline, no, the car depending upon its parts is coming from something else. Because not every being who perceives that those parts will perceive a car like the fly, right? So not even theoretical beings, spaceman, from Mars looks at an object, doesn't know car. If the car were dependent upon its parts, then the Martian would be forced to see car there because all the parts are there. And they wouldn't. It's like, I don't relate to Martians, but I do relate to flies. And it looks to me like the fly is on my car. But if I really try to put my little mind in the little fly's mind, I don't think I'm sitting on a car. I'm sitting on something that has parts. But if it were car in those parts, it would determine how it is perceived. So can we say, no, the car does not depend upon its parts in that way? I think so. Then Dempe Chok is, do the parts depend upon the car? So put the car as the table and the parts as the pen sitting on them. Is the car there first? Holding up the parts, making the parts the car. And it's like we could argue there had to be car in somebody's mind, the idea car, in order for someone to come up with the idea of putting all these parts together into car. In which case, the idea car is the supporting factor for the car that ends up sitting on top of it. But it's like, no, you can't say that. An idea can't support anything. Or can it? In the end, isn't our car, as we are driving it, an idea? An idea that's functioning? Aren't we that? No, it's like we can't say that. Things aren't just ideas. So the car does not depend upon the parts, and the parts don't depend upon the car. My mind doesn't depend upon its instances of awareness, like sit down upon them. And the instances of awareness don't sit down upon the mind. See how slippery it is when we're trying to do it with the mind? But it's not insignificant either to try to do it. Fifth one, Dempe Chikdong. Dempe Chik means to possess its parts. Does the car possess its parts? Own its parts? Do the parts belong to the car? Yeah. Does the car own the parts? It's saying the same thing. It just feels so completely different. No, there's no such thing as a car that owns parts. Get your hands off my steering wheel, Sarani. I don't feel like going to the grocery store today. The car is just there. But does my car have parts? Yes. Do I have my car? Yes. Do I possess my car? Yes. Does the car possess its parts? No. Go, well, come on. Let's be consistent here. Do I believe I possess the car? Yes, it's in our name. Do I believe the car possesses its parts? No, that's silly. It's not a being to possess. Do I believe the car has parts? Yes. Well, then I do believe the car possesses parts. Does the car possess its parts? Trick question. What car? What parts? My car that's in it from it has to have parts that are in them from them that you put all together. And those parts that are in them from them all of a sudden become the parts of my car. From nobody's steering wheel to the steering wheel in my car. Right, that's how you make cars, is you put those different parts all together. And when they're all together in the proper way, you have a car. And then you add the factor of the exchange of money. And now that car is my car. Seems like that's how things work in our world. But when we try to pin it down, it really does seem absurd. Oh, I just broke my pen. To say my car possesses its parts. But it doesn't sound absurd to say I possess my car. And then what about my mind? Does it feel absurd to say my mind possesses its moments of mind? Well, if it doesn't, who does? If those parts of my mind don't belong to my mind, who do they belong to? Where are they? Okay. A thing that exists with its own nature can't depend upon anything else. That's what having its own nature means. So a thing that exists with its own nature can't depend on parts. It can't even have parts, let alone possess parts. But I don't have a car if I don't also have the parts of the car. Okay, so scratch number 5. Number 6, dupa samdam. Is the car all the parts together? Dupa sam means all together. Is the car the collection of the parts? Yeah, again, it seems like it until we think, again, you can have all the parts laid out on the garage floor and you don't have the car until they're all put together. And then we might say, yes, the car is all the parts put together. But then that would mean if you lost one part, the whole car would disappear. If the car is all the parts together, you lose one bolt and you wouldn't have car anymore. And we say, well, that's silly. You can do without that bolt. And you can do without this, I don't know, bumper thing. And you can do it without this thing. Well, how many parts can you take away before you don't have car anymore? And at what point does the functioning ability of the car make it qualify as car? Right? You have a junker that can't run. We still look at it and go, oh, look at that junk car in the guy's yard. We still call it a car. But even as we call it a car, we know it can't get anybody anywhere. It doesn't do what cars do. Why do we still call it a car? When it doesn't have all its parts, it doesn't even have its function. But there's still something in it that says car. Can all the parts of the car, even all put together, force everybody to see car there? No, the fly doesn't see car. The Martian doesn't see car. Nothing can force its identity. The mind of the experiencer is what forces the identity. So does that mean anything that you are not immediately aware of right now, does it all not exist? And it just comes into existence as you move into awareness of it? That's scary. We're not saying that that's what our reality is like, because it would be implying that we're the only existing thing, because we're the only thing we're always aware of. That actually means we are part of that. Not anything until somebody's aware of us, but fortunately, we're always aware of me. So we never are that undifferentiated, no thingness yet, because we already always have our differentiation. But you step into a crowd of a whole zillion beings, and how differentiated are you? Right? Everybody's say all those thousands of beings are looking at you. You're the one on stage. We're still having the perception like I'm the only real thing here. But there's thousands of beings looking at you, and each one is seeing you differently. Now, which one are you? Will the real you please stand up? And it can be scary, or it can be, oh my gosh, this is a glimpse of what it is to emanate, right? I'm being what each of those beings is seeing. I'm not aware of it like a Buddha would be aware of it. But we are nothing but what the other being is perceiving us as. And our own mind is perceiving us in one of those ways. But that doesn't make us more real, our perception of me more real. Right? They're having valid perceptions, I'm having valid perceptions. It's like, woo. So back to the car. Are all the parts together the car? No, not until some awarer of the car says car. Is that a part of the car? No, that's a part of the experiencer of the car. It's not a part of the car. What car? The one that's only there once I'm adding my part to the car. But it's not a part of the car. Part of me. So you're going to apply that to your mind and your parts of your mind. Then the last one is yip. Yip means the outline. It's like all that's left to consider about the car and its parts is the car the outline of its parts, right? If you draw, I just drew a little car. It has a funny little shape. It's got these two round things at the bottom. Is that what makes the car? Is that what makes my mind make cars? Just to see the outline. And it's like, no, that's silly. It's not enough information, number one. Number two, so, cars all look the same now. But years ago, in my day, some were long and narrow, some were round, some were squares. They were very different. And which shape is it that makes me recognize car? If it's the shape that's identifying the object, it's like they would all have to be identical. And although they are very, very similar now, they're not identical. So it all seems silly, like just playing with words, playing with ideas. It's fun to do, but come on. Why is it so important? And Geshe-la says it's life or death, actually, because it's to show us that every experience we have, every identifying things that we do, we misbelieve that the identity of the object is not coming from our own mind. We recognize that our mind becomes aware of the object's identity, and we believe there's something about the object that declares itself. And we say, nah, we don't believe things are self-existent because we believe they depend on other things. Right. And as we believe they depend on other things, we also believe that they have their own identity. The pen depends upon its parts and its causes, and that's what makes it that's what makes it a pen. And bingo, there's pen. Once it has all those criteria. What we don't automatically include is my perception of it as pen with parts and causes. Then pen's right. We don't include in our experience of the pen our identity of the pen. But that's actually the only pen we interact with, is the one that our mind is identifying as pen. Because everybody else interacts with their own identity of this object. And maybe it's pen and maybe it's not. Right. Same for our own mind. The difficulty is, it's hard to say other people experiencing my mind. So we do experience that other beings have minds, right? We can distinguish between a being that has consciousness and a being that doesn't have consciousness. How we actually do that, I don't know. Well, I do know. But like conventionally speaking, how do we tell the difference between a tree and a bug? We say a bug is a living thing. A tree is a living thing also, but not with the kind of consciousness that we call a bug or a rabbit or a human. Like, how do we know that? We have some kind of criteria, and then we say, okay, that's a conscious being and that's not a conscious being. That's a rock. That's a human. So we somehow are aware of other beings' minds, but we can't experience them. Technically, I can't experience another being's rock either. I can only experience my own rock. The rock I'm experiencing, I mean. So all that's left in the relationship between the cart and its parts is how we are experiencing that cart and or its parts. So our own experience is that there is a cart made up of parts. And when we are experiencing any one of the parts, we can say there is the part of the cart that I'm experiencing. It's always going to rely upon our experience that we're having. So technically, the identity of the car is coming from our experience of it. The identity of the parts of the car are coming from our experience of it. Is there anything that we could experience, even just experience by knowing about, that could exist independent of our experience of it? It's ridiculous to even say. Can you experience something without experiencing it? No. That's the same as saying, can you experience something that's not your projection? And it's like, wait, it doesn't seem like anything I experience is my projection. They all seem real. My projection would be I sit on my sofa and I run the camera and like some imaginary scene goes by more like a dream. But everything we experience is projected, including the us projecting it technically. So is there anything that we can experience that's not a projection? No. Where do projections come from? Where do experiences come from? They are a current moment experience. They are valid if we're not, they have to be a result of a cause, don't they? And experience is a result. Results have to have causes. Causes have to be different from the results. If they were the same thing, they wouldn't be cause and result. But they have to be similar in some way because just any old cause doesn't make just any old result. There are similarities between the cause and the result. And so if any given moment of experience is my projection, then my projections must be results of something. And resultant projections, their causes must be something similar. So some similar earlier projection is the cause of this current projection. But how does that work? Projection going out, projection going out, projection going out. Isn't it out and gone? Right? It goes out and we act. It goes out and we react. It goes out and we react. When that thing called react, is somebody aware of that react? Yeah. And that's where the imprint comes. So projection, react. The react is the re-imprint. Does it ripen immediately? No, because if it did, it would be the same. Right? And then we would be like never changing. If the cause and result ripen at the same time, they're identical. If they ripen one after the other, then it's too close. There hasn't been enough time for it to grow. You don't harvest a watermelon and you have the seeds, and the next day all those seeds are watermelon plants with ripe watermelons. Even mental seeds have to be influenced by similar and dissimilar in order for them to get their power to cross the line into manifestation, let's say, into ripening. So by eliminating all these worldly ways that an object is in relationship with its parts, we come to see the way we're thinking about the object and the parts has to be incorrect. And even as we recognize that they're all incorrect, it does not make those incorrectly perceived things disappear because they never existed incorrectly. We just thought they did. The way they've always existed is by way of seed ripening projections. We're just finally showing ourselves that our old belief is mistaken. And then finally, the projected my car can be there. It's always been there. We're the ones that are changing, not the outer world that we're experiencing. And as we change, it becomes more and more evident that my interaction with those projected things is how I create my future experience of those projected things. And if I want something better, even worldly better, then my behavior in the moment is where I create that better. How do I do it? By training myself to plant my seeds in ways that when it comes back to me, it will be more pleasant. How is that? Avoiding harming others grossly and subtly. Try to be kind, grossly and subtly. Do both with this heart of wanting to help other beings stop their suffering too. What does that look like? Avoiding the 10 non-virtues, training ourselves in their opposite. Following our vowed behaviors, because those vowed behaviors are behaviors that an omniscient mind recognizes we wouldn't figure out ourselves how important they are. Like, I will avoid praising myself and criticizing others. I will avoid, right? Things that we don't even think are wrong. The Bodhisattva vows point out the subtleties of that and the advantage of doing the opposite. Okay, so the point of those 4 close recollections is to come to the conclusion, oh, my behavior is what creates. And it's like they can just tell us that, as Geshe-la does, and we can have the seeds to believe it, believe it, believe it. But then at some point, we might come up with the experience that I try, and nothing changes. We even do the 4 steps, and we don't get the result we're looking for. If we haven't gone through these exercises of analyzing and proving intellectually the truth of no self-existence, even when we're trying to apply the punchline, when we hit the wall that makes us question our belief, if we can fall back on our belief born of logic, we'll recognize that in our 4 stepping, we're just have got the seed planting not quite right. And it's not the method that's faulty, it's our insight. And that if we shift gears a little bit, when we find the right seeds to pull out and plant, the shift has to happen. When? When it's done, when it gets over the threshold. So it takes this logical analysis as a foundation for our seed ripening belief in the conclusion, my behavior matters. For those times when it seems like we're trying to justify an old behavior because the new one's not bringing results fast enough. So go to the trouble to apply these analyses. Find the emptiness analysis that works best for you. There'll be one having to do with our own identity. There'll be one having to do with our emotions. And find the one that you can apply. because there'll be times in life where we need to go back and apply it again, right? And not just jump to the punchline. All right, let's take our break. That actually finishes class 7. And now I have 1 hour to do class 8. I'll do my best. Right, are we back? So Master Shantideva's wisdom chapter, he goes into the the five main proofs for emptiness. There are thousands of ways that we can show ourselves the empty nature of objects, subjects, and interactions between. But there are four main uh, analyses that are taught in the monastic tradition. These are all coming down to us through Arya Nagarjuna's lineage. And so they are all designed to take us to highest middle way, right? They're all based or directed towards that for us. And then the idea is that we learn all of them, explore all of them, and find the one that works best for us, as I said, and then use it in the various circumstances of our own life. And then we know the others well enough that when there's a need for somebody else's benefit to apply one of the other ones, we at least know of it. We can go and look at it, or we can help them by way of that. So it's not that we, have to bring to perfection all five or all thousands, but we just use them all to investigate, to keep strengthening our own growing wisdom. So one of these is the analysis called Dorje Sekme Tensik. There it is. Dorje Sekme Tensik means the sliver of diamond proof. The proof of emptiness called the sliver of diamond. Now, the actual statement of the proof doesn't have anything to do with diamonds. But diamond is supposed to remind us of ultimate reality. So we recall those three qualities of diamond that are pertinent to our study of the true nature of things, which is their lack of true nature. And so if you recall, diamond is used because it's the closest thing in our material world to an ultimate. It's said to be the hardest thing. Only a diamond can scratch another diamond. But we can smash a diamond. And if the original diamond was a pure diamond, then every piece, no matter how big or how small, is equally pure in that smashed diamond. And then, what's that third factor? The third factor is that a pure diamond is completely clear. If you cut facets into it, the light bounces around and it's not clear anymore. But if there's no facet, you just had a pane of pure diamond, you would walk along and you'd bump right into it because there's nothing that our sensory apparatus can pick up until we hit it. So in those three ways, the empty nature of any existing thing and all existing things is there with the existence of the thing, but we can't see it. So they say emptiness is all around us, but we can't see it. Not that there is a big emptiness that we're walking through, but every moment of our existence has an experience, and every experienced thing has its emptiness, including ourselves. And those emptinesses are there always, everywhere. We just don't see them. every one of those emptinesses are identical. Like every sliver of the pure diamond smashed is identical to the rest of it. Every emptiness is 100% the lack of the identity of the object in it from it. The lack. Every lack is identical, 100% lack. So the emptiness, the first of our first direct perception of it, is identical to the emptiness that a Buddha mind is perceiving all the time. The lack of self-existence to any and all existing things. Identical. Not one and the same, not one great big emptiness, but identical. And then that emptiness of any and all existing things is ultimate reality. Like the diamond is the ultimate hardness thing in our world, but even in that way, it's nowhere close to ultimate, because diamond is a presence, it's an appearing thing. And the emptiness of all and any appearing thing is ultimate reality. The ultimate reality of my friend the pen is its emptiness. The ultimate reality of all existing things is that emptiness of that. So whatever level we are looking at, the empty nature is the ultimate reality. And the whatever is appearing is the appearing reality. It can be appearing in the way it truly exists as projection, or it can be appearing in the way it doesn't exist, right, as self-existent, in which case neither one is the object doing it. It's the perceiver and their experience that's doing it. So the sliver of diamond proof is a proof that looks at the self-existent, our self-existent belief in causation. So we've done the self-existent nature of objects' identities. And we've even looked at the self-existent nature of our own identity a little bit. And we've looked at the self-existent nature of our reaction to the yelling boss. But we haven't really looked at the how things function, how things work, and the empty nature of how things work. And it actually makes the distinction for us between lower higher way and highest higher way. So when we call the difference functionalists versus middle way. So functionalist means we believe that something that functions has to have some factor in it that makes that function. In order for one object to cause another object to do something, they have to have this ability to interact and influence the other thing. In order for me to use the pen to write, there has to be some functioning component to the pen that I then put the tip to the paper and move it across the paper, and it leaves a line. And it's not just the ink. because my pen has ink, but it's not writing right now. But I can't pick up my teacup and write with it. Right? There's something in the object that allows for function. So we believe that if something functions, it must be real. It must in some way be real. And middle way says, no, everything's projection. And it sounds like we're arguing between real and not real. And that's not the argument, actually. Because everything happening by projection is what makes things work. Ultimately, that's what makes things real. But when we hear the word real, we can't help but flop back into in it, from it, in some way. We know not self-existently. We know that. But something makes concrete hard and water not hard. Well, unless you hit it at high speed, then water is very hard for an instant. So something makes things work. And ignorance believes that the something that makes things work is in the something, included in the something. The thing that makes a pen work when I push it is because there's something in the pen that can write. Right? Otherwise, I could pick up a banana and write a love letter with it, and I can't. If it's all my projection, I should be able to make anything do anything. And technically, that's true. But not until where I'm much more advanced than I am. So in the sliver of diamond proof, we are taught this method of investigating how and why things happen, how it looks at the ways we believe things happen to look at whether that actually can be how things happen. And it sounds absurd again as we go through the little pieces until you actually try to apply it to an explanation of how is it that I believe such and such works. My car starts by turning the key. All these ways that we've been exploring, at least in different classes. Anyway, here's the four. There are four statements in the sliver of diamond proof, four things that we investigate. Dak le mayin, shen le min. Is that right? Ni le mayin, and gyu meimin. So all these mayins, lemins, they're all negations. Dak means self. Do things happen by themselves? So this isn't asking the question. This is stating the conclusion. Things don't happen by themselves. Like, what makes peas round? What makes the sky blue? What makes thorns sharp? These are all the classic logical arguments that the 7-year-olds in the monastery are cutting their teeth on their logic training. What makes peas round? And if your child comes to you someday, Mom, what makes peas round? What are you going to say? Peas are just round, honey. Lima beans are oblong. Kidney beans are this shape. Right? They're all different. They're all unique, as are you, my dear. You're so sweet and wonderful. You are just like peas are round and kidney beans are kidney shaped. But the kid's going to say, well, why? Why aren't peas flat? And why aren't bees round? Come on, Mom, there has to be an answer. How come that guy got hurt in the car accident, but this guy didn't? Well, because he was on the side that got hit. Yeah, but why was he there and not on the other side? Well, right. Finally, we say, just because, honey, there's no answers for those things. But that's not logical. And the kid knows it's not logical. We all got that answer and we quit asking, and we all were unsatisfied with that. And at some point in life, it's like, no, let's revisit this. And the way I know that is because you are here in this class. You are looking for those answers that the adults said, quit asking, there's no answer. There has to be an answer. There is a cause for every result. You can't have a result without a cause. There has to be an answer. We're not going to like the answer because the answer is going to be something you did to cause it in the past. Ah, I don't want to know that, which is why so few people dig into it, because the result is personal responsibility, and that's too big, right, for most. So congratulations that you're still here. So do things just happen all by themselves? Like, no, we know that. Do we blame things for happening all by themselves? I know I still do. Okay. No, things don't happen all by themselves. Every event has a cause. Every cause has to be separate from the event. It had to be there before. Second, Shen Le Min. Dak means self. Shen means other. Do things come about from something else? Does something else make something else function? Seems like it, right? This one seems like, yeah, other things make other things. Things interact, and that's what makes things happen, right? I interact with the pen by putting it to paper and pushing it, and I can put in a word or a drawing, or right? Things interact, and that's what makes things work. But it's like lemon, not things don't come from something else. Really? Literally? What makes things happen? If you hit a nail through two boards of wood, that nail will hold the two boards of wood together, and you can make a table. Nagarjuna is saying, no, actually. But what does he mean? Yes, the nail is holding the two boards of wood together. Yes, hammering the nail pushed it through the two boards to hold them together. But my hand and arm had to move the hammer to hammer the nail. And something had to propel my hand and arm to whack the nail. And something had to propel what propelled me to hammer the nail. And something had to propel what propelled, right? Can we ever find the thing that was the start of the nail holding the wood together? Then why do we say, I hammered the nail through the wood to hold it together? Because it's like that's not the real cause. Those are resultant experiences of something else. Where's the real cause for the nail holding the wood together? We're not ever going to be able to pinpoint something that I did to propel the nail. But there has to be something that I did that makes the experience of this propelling that, propelling that, propelling that, propelling that. I am having that experience. Those experiences are results. Results have causes. Something. But when we're looking for the thing that causes the result, we're actually still looking at some other result. We're not looking at the actual cause. The actual cause has to be something that I imprinted, not some experience that was an exprint. So, do things happen all by themselves? No. Do they happen by way of other things? Seems like it. But when we go looking for the other thing that causes the thing, we won't find it. We'll keep finding something more subtle that caused that one, that caused that one, that caused that one, that caused that one, or appeared to cause. And we'll never actually find the thing. That's what the Shen Le Min means. Things don't cause other things in the way that we think. We add that piece, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, I get it better. But when we really get it, we don't need to add that piece. So it's a way to check our own understanding when we say, things don't cause other things. Things don't cause other things in the way I think. Okay, got that. We still have work to do. Until when we say, things don't cause other things, we go, yeah. And so I'm going to be even more helpful, more kind, because that's how things cause other things. We want to get to that point. I'm not saying I'm there yet. We want it automatic. That's what comes after our direct perception, is it does become automatic. Until then, we train, remind ourselves. All right. Third. Oh, that's why this looks funny. This is supposed to be a Y. Oh, I didn't catch that last night. Ni le mayen. Ni means both. Things don't come from themselves. Things don't come from other things. Do things come from both themselves and other things? Again, but check your mind. Yeah, the pen with all its ink and me, we come together. I can make the pen write. It does seem like self and other. The pen has to be there. I have to be there. Two selves, two objects, the pen, the paper, the me, three objects. Those all come together and writing can happen. It seems like it would take both or all. But the conclusion is no. Because what's missing? Do things come from themselves? No. Do things come from other things? No. Do things come from both? No. Because what's missing? Right, the perception of the one, right? Who's experiencing the function? Whether we're just seeing it function, the car whizzing by, or we're actually involved in the function, there still requires The me being there. Is it just the me? No, it's my projection that includes the me, of course. My projection happening. Is that part of the piece being round? No. Is it something other than the peas being round? We want to say yes. Is it both? Does it take peas there and my perceiving them as round peas for them to be round peas, peas that'll roll off the table? Seems like it takes both. But my projection part, it's like if that's the both we're talking about, I don't know if we still investigate that and we say it takes my projection and the peas from themselves and the other factor, we're still thinking wrongly. We're saying the round peas are there first, and then our projection lets us see it. Mind only school says that, right? Comes out of our seed. Round pea, me here to see it, we interact. Round peas exist all by themselves, but we only experience the ones that come out of, right? Them and me coming together. That way we don't have to address whether or not round peas or driving cars or writing pens have their own existence or not. It doesn't matter because the only one I can relate to is the one coming out of my seed. So I still want to be more kind because then every experience that I have is pleasant and I can use it to help other people. So it's mind only school works. We can use it like really, really far along in our practice to help us recognize we can't experience anything that's not coming out of our own mental seeds. Our mental seeds are put there by how we interact with others. So we'll come to the same conclusion, getting good at mind only level. We just don't have to worry about whether things exist as a baseline existence or not. In the end, we do want to address that because if there is something in a suffering world that's there independent of our projection, that'll still be there when we're experiencing ourselves as Buddha, and that means we're not Buddha because there's something we haven't changed. So it isn't true that there is a baseline reality that we never experience because all we experience is our own version of it. There is only the reality of our own versions of everything, but that's so nebulous that we really, if we try to live in that, it's very easy to lose touch with reality, to convince ourselves that there's nothing until I experience something. It feels limiting instead of expansive until we're ready. So do things come about by themselves? No. Do they come about by other things? Oh, careful. No. Do they come about by both? No, because they're still missing the projection of the perceiver. Do things come about? No, wait. Does nothing. Do they come from neither? Neither self, nor other, nor both. So it's really, right? Neither usually means two things, but here it's three. Do things come about regardless of self, other, or both? No. Do things come about? Yes. Well, wait, if not self, if not other, if not both, if not nothing, what's the explanation? Like if you were having this discussion with somebody at the bus stop, fella, why do you think Pan's right? If it doesn't come from itself and it doesn't come from other, it doesn't come from both, and it doesn't come from nothing, what's the guy gonna say? Okay, what are you on? Right? Just step aside. I think I'll take the next bus. You go ahead. We don't come to the conclusion if we haven't been trained to think it through. Because it's not saying nothing exists. It's not saying nothing happens. It's saying things happen in some other way than what we think. We know the punchline. Do watermelons come from watermelon seeds? Olga's going, I don't know if I'm going to agree to that. If watermelons come from watermelon seeds, then every time we have a watermelon seed, we would have a watermelon. No, it takes time for the seed to grow the plant, to grow the watermelon. We agree it takes time. Can a watermelon plant with a watermelon happen without a seed having happened? We also want to say no. But there's a missing piece. What's the missing piece? Our experience of the seed growing into a plant, growing into a watermelon that has seeds. So every watermelon has hundreds of seeds. Do all those seeds become watermelon plants? No, because not all those seeds get the right circumstances, including the right circumstance of our projection for them getting the circumstance. So if we have a watermelon that we can eat, and we were to ask somebody, where did this watermelon come from? Modern day, if you ask a little kid, that kid will probably say it came from the grocery store. And then, yeah, well, where did the grocery store get it? From the trucker who brought it. And where'd they get it? Probably the airplane that brought it to the trucker, right? I mean, the kid is probably going to be able to trace it all the way back. But will the child necessarily know that at some point there was a farmer who put a seed in the ground? Like, that's so obvious to me, I can't imagine not knowing it. But I'm guessing that there are children that don't know that, right? That for them, food appears in the grocery store. And I don't know, right? It just somehow gets manufactured. Because it's to know something grows from a seed, we're not born knowing that. We have to learn it. And then when we learn it, we learn, well, it takes water and sunshine and nobody pulling the sprout out like it's a weed. And then when you have all those conditions, maybe we get a watermelon, but still only maybe. So it's not the seed, it's not the sunshine, it's not the water, it's not the not pulling it out like a weed. There's still something else going on that makes the watermelon. And then even if we have the watermelon, is it going to be edible? Right? There's still something else going on. So if we have, you've sliced up your watermelon, it's juicy and red. What do we want to do with it? We have it there to eat it, But when we understand where it really comes from, are we going to eat it ourselves? Yeah, if we don't care whether we ever get watermelons in the future, just gobble it up. When we recognize that at every level of understanding where that watermelon came from, it is projected results of past behaviors towards others. If it's pleasant, it was some kindness that's similar. If it's unpleasant, it was some selfishness that was similar. When we know that, what do we want to do with that delicious watermelon? We want to share it. We want to see ourselves planting seeds for more delicious watermelon or more something, delicious something. And the way that we do that is we share it. What if we're all by ourselves? Do you have to take your watermelon down on the street and find somebody to eat it before you can eat yours? It seems absurd. It's like, I will never get lunch if I have to go find somebody. You know, the built-in practice is you offer it first to the holy beings. And it's like, that's a cop-out. You can always do that. No, no, it's not a cop-out at all. It's a way of perpetuating our pleasant things. Offer them before you partake. It's one of the refuge advices. Like our very first step is to formally take refuge. And we get these advices for things to avoid doing and things to do. And when we come back and look at those refuge advices, it's like, oh my gosh, like the method is built in from the very get-go. If that's all we did was really follow our refuge advices, things would shift really quickly because they're extraordinarily powerful, especially when we understand. All right. So nature seeds don't work in the way we think. Because if they did, every watermelon seed would make watermelons, and they don't. It takes projections, ripening for nature seeds to work in the way that they do. Mm. So then, if the way things work, ultimate nature is empty, blank of any independent nature, then how do things that work exist? If seeds growing into watermelons are empty of self-existence, where do watermelons come from? If they come just from our projections, why do we need seeds? Why do we need sunshine? Why do we need watering? Why can't we just think something into being if it's just our projections? Is our projection something we just think is true? No. What do we mean by projection? Every experience that's forced on us. Well, wait, I'm breathing. That's not forced on me. I'm seeing a blue sky. That's not forced on me. I can not see it or no, I can see it, right? I'm looking at the ceiling. I'm looking out the window. I have choice whether I see a blue sky. No, I don't, right? My karma ripening is what's happening. I am my karma ripening. We came to that conclusion a couple classes ago. Not I have karma ripening. I am my karma ripening. Karma ripening means projections, 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 65 per instant, shape shifting me and my experience. So when we ask the question, how do things, working things exist? How does anything exist? They say things exist by dependent origination. Right? Geshe-la doesn't like that word. It's too intellectual. Dendral is the Tibetan word. Things exist dependent on other things. Like we already know that. We know things exist dependent on other things. So there are different levels of understanding what's meant by dependent origination. What things do other things depend upon for their identities, for their qualities, for their function? Mm. The answer to that takes us between the different schools, what are called the different schools of Buddhism, the different levels of understanding of what's meant by dependent origination and emptiness. Those words are used by people with different capacities for understanding it. And then there becomes this theoretical group of people that believe it means this, and so affects my practice in this way, and another group that believe it means that, and it affects our practice in another way. And then, right, and there end up being 6 of those, and then 7, and then 8, but a main 6 that we'll learn this fall, the 6 flavors of emptiness. And it's not really people at different levels. It's showing us the level we're functioning at any given moment, the level at which we understand things are coming from me versus coming from them. So we'll get good at it if we're not already. But before we can understand dependent origination, we want to understand that this idea, the gakcha. So we've studied gakcha before. The term means the thing that we deny, which I find in English that's so slippery. Like the thing that we deny. That so remember that emptiness means the lack of something, an absence of something. And there are beliefs in the literature that talk about emptiness as if it's a thing, a presence there. And even in Diamond Way, we don't use the term emptiness anymore. We use the term clear light. And the clear light sounds like, right? You got the light bulb shining. There's something clear that we could see or at least experience directly. And they're still talking about emptiness experienced through a certain quality of mind, but it gives this wrong connotation that emptiness is a presence. It's clear and it's bright and it's a light, and that's not it at all. So we're so well trained that emptiness means the absence of a self nature of anything. And by self nature, we mean an identity, a quality, a function that's in it. In it, from it. I like that phrase. Emptiness is the lack of such in it, from it, of any object, any experience, any moment of our me. So lack means an absence an absence of something that we thought was there. But when we go looking for it, we find that it isn't there. In fact, can't ever have been there. In fact, is impossible. And so then all the times that I thought it was there, and so interacted with those others as if it was there, they were all mistaken. Not that none of it ever happened, but the interaction between me that was misunderstood and them that was misunderstood, and the interaction between us that I misunderstood, it's all been misunderstood. And as a result, I've perpetuated the misunderstanding. And the misunderstanding is the belief that the object's niceness or not niceness is in it. My liking it or not liking it is forced on me by it. And the very me that's here is independent of all of it, having the experience. It's ridiculous once we understand, right, the mistake. To hear me describe the mistake sounds so ridiculous, and yet, as I'm describing the mistake, I'm still doing it. So it is more difficult to identify ourselves having it than it is to explain it, which is why we keep explaining it again and again and again. Helping others understand better is what plants the seeds for us to understand it better, which will help us all get to the place where we experience it directly. All right. So the belief that things are in them, from them, including their functions, is what makes the gakcha. The pen with its identity in it is the gakcha, the thing that we deny. We're not denying it as we're using the pen. But is there a pen here with its identity in it, from it? No. Is there a full-sized living two-headed purple elephant in your room right now? No. Do you have to go looking for it to be sure that it's not in there? No, because it doesn't exist. In our world, a full-size two-headed living purple elephant doesn't exist, so you don't have to look for it. It's obvious that it's not there. The lack of a two-headed purple elephant in your room right now, is it true? Yes. No such thing as the purple elephant. There is such thing as it not being in your room, even though it doesn't exist. So here's our friend, the pen. What pen exists and what pen doesn't? What pen is the two-headed purple elephant pen? Right? The one that's coming at me. There is no such thing. What pen is the dependently originated pen? This one. Two-headed purple elephant. No such thing, impossible. The gakcha in an object or an experience or a function that could exist independently of the experiencer's mind taking information and laying on the identities in the way that it does is a gaksha. An object that exists independent of that process. There's no such thing. They are impossible. There have never been such things. So as we are getting more and more clear with the no self nature of objects, it's not that suddenly all those things disappear and then our projected things can show up, because everything we've ever experienced has been nothing but projected natures. And part of the projection was the belief that the object was in it from it, but there was never such an object. You don't have to go find the two-headed purple elephant and escort it out the door. We just recognize, no such thing, never has been. See how the shift can happen in a moment. And every time we get a little glimpse, we've planted seeds for that shift to come again. More seeds, shift to come again, more seeds, more seeds, more seeds, until that shift becomes permanent, which is nirvana for the permanent removal of all mental afflictions that come because of the misunderstanding, and then Buddhahood or omniscience that comes when even the subtle seeds from having believed things were self-existent, seeing them that way, are sufficiently damaged or removed. So the gotcha really is something we're going looking for that is non-existent, as never has existed, but we believe in them so strongly that we do stuff to protect the gotcha me, in which we're willing to hurt somebody else to get my advantage. When we understand about nothing existing in any other way than the result of my past behavior, we will not be willing to see ourselves harm another. Will it still happen? Like I'm having this interaction with the ants in the kitchen. A few are fine. Suddenly there's more than what's acceptable. I get a Swiffer pad that's so soft. I sweep them up as gently as I can. I take them outside to someplace that's safe for ants, right? Like I'm told to do. I even sometimes will do mantra and blow on them, and I put them out. And in the process, some of them get hurt. Ants are amazingly resilient. They can be all shriveled up, and you do some medicine Buddha mantras on you and blow, and they go, and they're back alive. And it's like, I'm so sorry I hurt you. I'm glad you're fine, but stay out of the house. But do you see the ants don't know house versus not house? I'm fighting a losing battle. Or am I? Like I'm trying to give them a safer place. Otherwise, they're going to go down the sink. They're going to get wiped up. They're going to get hurt. I'm trying to put them out. Eventually, they're all going to get it and they'll go away. Why did I go there? Because the ants invading the kitchen are a two-headed purple elephant. Does that mean they're not there? No. It means they're there by my projection. Does that mean they're not real? No, that's what makes them real. Okay. All right. So if it's true that everything is projection, then isn't it also true that if we could make the seeds for projections that are pleasurable for everybody, we would do so. If we understood that my behavior in the moment creates my future, and my future includes other beings, then my behavior in the moment creates the future for everybody. Wouldn't I want to try to create a future, a better future for others? And even as I try, they may have their own projections ripening that see themselves getting hurt by me. That's why I went there with the ants. In my attempt to help them, I hurt them, some of them. So that can happen. Try to be nice, and somebody gets their feelings hurt. Is it because of what we said? Sounds like it. They took it the wrong way. But no, that's a ripening result as well. From when we reacted badly to somebody trying to help us in some way. Does that mean the system doesn't work? No. Burn it off, continue to apply kindness. How long do we have to do it? Like that's existence, that's life, forever. Do it forever. In which case okay, I'm going to do my 4 steps until I get my result, that's like meaningless. Use the 4 steps to train ourselves in this new way of being, and then just be that. Yeah. Okay. Ooh, we. So a gaksha is a thing that could exist without being a group of parts that we are being forced to see in a certain way by our past karma. If you had a homework question that said, describe the gaksha, that would be it. The Tibetan phrase is a gaksha is something that's not just me conceiving of the collection of parts in a certain way, forced to do so by our karmic seeds ripening as we know, which means there's no limit to what we can make happen, just not in the moment, but by way of seed planting. So Master Shantideva points out that even as we are describing this to ourselves, we are misunderstanding it. We are even thinking of emptiness, ultimate reality, as something that has its own nature in it from it. We can't help it until we've seen it directly, and then we'll still think of it, but we won't believe it that way. So he's just pointing it out because it probably wouldn't occur to us to recognize, oh, I understand ultimate reality and seed planting and all that stuff. And then I'm thinking that there's a me that understands that information. And now I have that information, and it's something, right, with its own nature in it that will help me. That's all true, but none of it is not ripening projections. So it means I don't know if I have enough seeds to sustain that worldview if I'm not actively working to perpetuate it. Okay? Every time we project, that's 65, for instance, seeds that are being burned off. They're used up. We replant new ones that are similar to old ones, opposite of old ones, all of them influencing each other and being burned off as we experience. So technically, anything we experience, by the end of the experience, it's done and gone. It's never coming back the same way, which is why we don't experience things the same way. Everything's changing moment by moment by moment, including ourselves. Similarly, when we're thinking, oh, karma, it's my karma, we're thinking of karma as having some nature of its own. Karma is the truth. Karma is where everything comes from. Karma is what causes everything. And we're thinking of it as somehow not empty of self-existence. If karma is nothing but my projection, wait, right? So karma is an explanation. It's not a thing unto itself. It's the word we use to describe seeds ripening, growing, seeds planting, growing, ripening into my experience, within which I'm planting new that are growing, ripening into my experience. That process is definite. It's definite that a seed planted with kindness has to bring a pleasant result. Seed planted with unkindness has to bring an unpleasant result. Seeds grow. A seed not planted can't give a result. A seed planted's gonna give a result. We just don't know what it's gonna be unless we damage the seed enough that it can't go up. Right? Those laws of karma, they're not decrees, they're explanations for the process of our experiences, our very existence. So karma is empty of self-existence. If it wasn't, everybody would know it. If karma was self-existent and we have suffering me karma, we wouldn't be able to purify it because it would have suffering in it, from it, independent of my having created it. If there's anything independent of my having created it, there's something I cannot change. If there's anything about suffering world that I can't change, then Buddhahood's not possible. Everything is changeable. But until we recognize, until we identify the thing we thought was there, we can't recognize it doesn't exist. That's why we investigate the gacha. What is this thing, the gacha? And there are these different levels of understanding where we're putting on a gacha that we don't even understand. Which is 4 more pages of notes. So we're at 7:13 a.m. I can carry this over into the next class, or we can stay another half an hour. What's your wish? Somebody vote. Next class, are you like, "Ugh." In which case, let's go to next class. Okay, that answers that. We'll put it off till next class. Let me stop screen share. I have to move you. There we go. Let me do our dedication, Kongli. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help. We've learned a lot. It probably seems like we won't be using it to help them very soon, but we have changed. We are that much closer to being able to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself. And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy being. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you. And then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it. And they carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good, we want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom may. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person, to share it with everyone you love, to share it with every existing being everywhere. See them all filled with loving kindness, filled with wisdom, and may it be so. Okay. So anybody who needs to go, you're welcome to. Kong Li has a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, teacher, for teaching. And it's really mind-opening and mind-cracking. I mean, when 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 I need to follow your explanation, I have to be very but sometimes it's very tiring. So that's why sorry I need to bite something during a class because it's really yeah. So just now when you're talking about the functionalist, because the lower school and then they have cause and effects and then something strike my mind. Uh, does it mean that they have less people who can see DPE, direct perception of emptiness? Because if let's say people who experience this, definitely they know that everything is our projections. Whereas like the higher school, so there are more people that experience this one, so that's why they know and then they understand that everything is from our projection. Because when you explain, this one strike me. I don't know whether it's and really thank you that I can ask, I can learn. Yeah. So
I've heard Geshe-la describe that when a lower school trained person, if there is such a thing, has the direct perception of emptiness and they come out of it, they recognize that what they thought the emptiness was that they were going to experience was so much less than what they now understand, having come out of the direct experience. So they go in expecting emptiness to be blah, and they come out going, oh, right? But it's not that they will necessarily come out and their aha will include, oh, then I want to become a total Buddha for the sake of all sentient beings. That isn't necessarily the aha. The aha is the no self nature of everything, not just the no self nature of the self or the no self nature of this, right? They go in thinking it's one thing and they come out knowing its totality, if you will.
So that's why because during then because it has been a very long period of time, the Abhidhamma, and then during then, I think the Nagarjuna was that time, so he really has to explain very hard. So to teach them that it is not it is not like this and not like that. So that's why which means that um the emptiness the experience is like what you say, maybe it's not that aha that really bring them to see the projection. I mean, everything is our projection, isn't it?
Right. Once we have the direct perception of ultimate reality, it is that everything is nothing but projection. Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's not the direct perception of emptiness. You could have
Ah,
the direct perception of of something else,
okay. Okay,
but
that's
it
good.
won't have the effect on the mind of cutting the belief in self-existence that stops the replanting of ignorance. Right? That takes the direct perception of emptiness. What we mean by that.
Mm. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yes, Olga.
Thank you, Lama. I just would like to ask if when you say that we need to take our refuge, you mean our refuge commitments, our vows? Okay.
Yes. Right. Right.
Thank you.
Typically, for those who weren't raised as Buddhists, there's a little ceremony that we do or we formally declare. And in that ceremony, we get told about the refuge advices. They're technically not vows, but they're advices to follow. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody.